Okay, here we go. Okay, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. I've got a really fantastic interview for you. We have here Patrick and Roman Jones. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, good seeing you, John.
You too. So we're going to get right into it today. We want to find out a little bit about Roman's experience in swimming and your experience with fluid mechanics, and hopefully where you're going to go from here. I know there's a lot of dreams that are coming up here that we're going to be turning hopefully into goals and starting to achieve those. So let's get started. First of all, Roman, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in swimming? And
Well,
Patrick, anytime, feel welcome to dig right in.
Okay, yeah, I'll jump in.
Great.
Well, my mom was taught how to swim at an early age, and so that was really important for her to get me in the water and familiar with it. So I was doing lessons in preschool at the local Y. So I was definitely in the water pretty early on, and ever since then, when I was 7, I joined the club team, and I loved it. I love the feeling of the water. I love the competitiveness of the sport, and it hasn't stopped since there. So I tried a little other sports when I was around 8 or 9. I definitely played some soccer, some basketball, but swimming just stuck. That was just my favorite out of all of them. I love the water.
It's interesting the way that happens. It seems like once it's in your blood, and I've noticed this for everybody, for somehow it just gets in your blood and then it's over.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing with all these interviews that we've been doing, Roman, is from the time you start, and for me it was 9 years old. I don't know how old you were when you started, but early, right? And once you start and you get in there, we'll find later on in life, when you're in your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, on most cases, you're still connected into this. So it's interesting that it's a lifetime community for most of us, whether we stay in there all the time or whether we just stay connected. It's a great community, and we're so happy that you are part of this and are enjoying it, because to us, it seems like as we interview, we'll have a lot of like super fast swimmers like you're becoming now and things like that. But it's really, and you'll probably notice it too, is it's not really just about the fast swimmers. It's about everybody in our community, the slowest swimmer to the fastest swimmer, to the coaches, to the parents, right? And I'm noticing I've got a young child just getting in it now, and I know I'm stuck in it for life, but that's a great thing.
Yeah, you've been stuck in it for life.
Yeah, that's right. So Patrick, from your standpoint, what do you feel like Roman gets out of it? Why do you like to have him in swimming? What does it do?
Yeah, when he started, it was interesting because, to be honest, I always thought that Roman would be great in football or track. Certainly, his mother and I had the conversation about football, and that was a non-starter. And we tried soccer, we tried baseball. I love baseball. Thought he was going to pick that up, and that didn't happen. He turned out to actually be pretty decent in track, but as you know, the swimming doesn't mix well with some sports, and given the commitment that you need to make.
That's right.
So, but I would say, in addition to that, just him finding a sport that he was really passionate about was, I really wanted him to have that structure. I wanted him to, be part of a team and to have, large goals and goals even beyond himself, really the support of the team. And I thought that was extremely important, to have that structure and to make sure that he understood, really all the ins and outs, and really being responsible to the team and his teammates, and having those sort of goals. And then in addition, it was, again, going back to the structure, it was really about time management as well. Swimmers, especially club swimmers, really have to have great time management skills in regards to getting their work done, along with getting their practice time in. And so for me, it was, his mother and I always would joke to say, Roman, whether he's going to be great swimming or not, he's going to have great time management skills. He's going to really be focused when he had, a number of hours to do his schoolwork, and he's certainly not going to be getting into any trouble. So I think I think it accomplished all of those areas.
We've seen that in our family in the last 3 months. And being in swimming my whole life, until you have your child in swimming, you may not be having the same context to it. Right. And that's exactly, it's like a training tool for life.
Right.
We look at it as like a microcosm that, they have to learn to get along with others. They have to learn to support their teammates. And they learn when some of their teammates don't perform as well, and how to try to, support them during their tough times. And realizing that we all have tough times, ups and downs, and it's a great thing. We also have her in martial arts, so we want her in very structured programs that can lead them forward.
Yeah, Roman took martial arts as well.
See, we're following right down your footsteps.
I think I was a yellow belt.
Yeah, you made a yellow belt.
I made the yellow belt.
Got it.
And then he said all the yelling was too much for him.
Yeah.
So that's really, it's very interesting. I didn't know that until just now that we have that same pathway going. It's very good. So far, and I know there's a lot coming up for you, but right now, if we kind of mark this milestone as to where you are, what are some of the highlights you've experienced in your swimming career so far? And I know you're just getting warmed up right now. We've seen that.
Yeah, I think the first one that I can probably remember is, when I was 10 and I broke several state records, and the first being the 100 breaststroke. And, that was actually huge for me at the time because I wasn't a breaststroker. I did the back and the fly, and that's what I mostly stuck to at practice. And, I actually didn't know I broke the state record until, a couple hours later. I knew I broke the meet record.
Right.
It was
it was a state record too.
Yeah, so we knew it was a good time, but I was astonished at the time, and my coach is so proud. He still thinks I can be a top tier breaststroker today. We're still working on it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What team do you swim with, by the way?
It's the same team I was on when I broke that record. Jersey Flyers Aquatic Club.
Great. And it sounds like you got a great relationship with your coach as well.
Yeah, I see him as more than a coach. He's definitely a friend to me. I can definitely go talk to him for any problems I have.
That's great. Excellent. Yeah, it's a whole journey, and you get so many great people around you all the way through, and that's a wonderful thing. So at this point, just looking at where you kind of and you don't have to share your dreams with us unless you want to, but where do you hope this takes you?
Well, college NCAAs has been a huge dream of mine since I was younger. I'm dreamt of being a national champion or an NCAA champion, the 100 fly. That's been my favorite event for a couple years, or almost all years I've been swimming now. So that's probably the biggest goal I have. And another one is Olympic trials coming up my freshman year in college. I missed a cut by half a second in the 100 fly this year, but I'm really, yeah.
And how old are you?
When I was at that, I was 16 when I did that. It was
wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You're right there, and so young too.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted that.
They say the two most valuable things you ever possess are your ideas and your time to carry them out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And you got plenty of time, so you're doing good.
Plenty of time in front of them. I tell them that all the time. It says everything is still in front of you, and so that's the most important thing.
Right. We find, and I think your dad will back this up, is the value of time is tremendous. And a lot of people don't realize, they kind of float along until they realize that sometimes it's too late. Like, oh, I got this great idea and no time to carry it out, but boy, it would have been great. But you've got that, and you've got some tremendous support, and that's wonderful. So at this point, tell me a little bit about what motivated, if you would, or Patrick, if you'd kick in on this, what motivated you to seek fluid mechanics out?
Yeah, I could jump in. Yeah. So that was an interesting time because, Roman was transitioning to high school, and we were living pretty far from the high school, and we knew that we would need to move and leave his club team. And at the same time, we were noticing, some of his times were flat. So we moved him onto a team, and I think, unfortunately, there was a period where he didn't have much time in the water, and as competing at the level that Roman wanted to compete in, it was pretty, paramount that he needed to be in the water at least 2 hours, 2 hours a day for those 6 days, and he wasn't getting that pool time, and his times, it really started to impact, his ability to drop time. And so it was a combination of things, we felt, and actually his mother really was doing a lot of research, and found fluid mechanics. And, we tried it out, and we met you, and we met Michael, right?
Michael.
Um, and, what really sort of piqued our interest was the science behind it. Roman was always pretty good, and I'll let him talk about it, but, his coaches always said that he was very coachable. He had a good feel for the water. Certainly he was fast, but this was really breaking down the stroke to understand why he was fast, and how he could even get faster. And so I think Roman really gravitated to that in terms of the work, and understanding, everything about his stroke. And, it was interesting because if we look at what you guys were able to do for him, and he mentioned the fly a couple of times, the fly stroke that he has today is the same fly stroke that you and Michael taught him. And that's pretty important, right? From that standpoint, that fly has not changed. And he's, incredibly fast for his age now. So that was the rationale for us to seek help. And it's not a knock on any, one coach or any one team, through that transition period. It was more about, I think, Roman, and all of us trying to understand, how he could become even more efficient in the water. Because at that point he was very passionate about it, and he really wanted to do well. He had some early success, as he mentioned, when he was 8, 9, and 10, and he wanted that to continue. And I think fluid mechanics really came in at a very critical juncture in his swimming career so far.
I remember talking to you, now that you say that you were saying he's very connected to science. And I think I remember talking to you about that. In fact, now you just bring me back, and then it's like, oh, then he's going to love this program.
Right.
My coach wrote the book called The Science of Swimming, so it kind of works really well.
Yeah.
And then, what we did was put it into like a visual platform. And the butterfly, interesting, Roman, that you have, I actually created that butterfly. And so we created it. I used to have one of the top teams in the country for female butterflyers years ago, and we've done really well with lots and lots and lots of butterflyers. But then we restructured it after studying an animal, believe it or not. And the animal that we studied, a lot of people think it's going to be the dolphin, but it's not. It's actually after the seal, and how a seal swims. And what it does, basically, it allows you to leverage a little bit more, and then choose how far you want to go and make your stroke. So whereas a kind of a normal butterfly, it's got a normal cadence and a certain length to it, and you might be able to expand it a little bit. This, you can just kind of, you can take the pool in 3 strokes if you want to. You'll be slow if you do that, right?
Yeah.
But you can take this, right? You can take the stroke depending on how much you leverage as far as you want. It doesn't look, when we first originally build it, like butterfly. It looks a little bit different because we're building it from kind of the inside out. And then we trim it, and then it looks like butterfly, but it's got a very different structure underneath it. So it really makes you a lot faster a lot of times. That's interesting. So you were able to keep that stroke. And we saw a number of people recently kind of trying to mimic it a little bit. And we're seeing a lot of, is this the future of butterfly? We thought it was a future a long time ago. Seems to be doing well. That's great that it's working well for you. So when you look at your butterfly now, what do you like so much about it, about the stroke itself?
Well, I think the main difference for me from the one I use now to my old one is that I'm able to move a lot quicker and more efficient. I can do it for a little longer. Before, especially while I came, I was pooping and I was getting a little tired at the end of the 100 butterfly.
Right.
It definitely really affects my times. You can see it in the last 15 meters. I was dropping. So for me, this butterfly is it's a lot more efficient than my other strokes, really. you know, I can move a lot quicker, especially with my underwaters.
Right.
And, you know, I don't get too tired doing it. That's the main thing I love about it.
Right. And you can't see that and notice that here, but you're so muscled, right? And you've always been, like when you were younger, when I met you at first, you're very heavily muscled, very well defined. And a lot of times when you see somebody with a lot of muscle, bringing their arms out like this can cause a lot of buildup of lactic acid and things like that. And this stroke tends to take that off a little bit. It's still, it's still got some work on the recovery, but the rest of the stroke has like almost none. It's just explosive and off you go. So it's interesting. And so I think long term, Roman, because it looks like and appears like your muscle is going to really expand. I'm guessing that's going to happen. And as that happens, if you can keep the burden off of some of that, you won't get unnecessary lactic acid, which we see a lot of buildup later with swimmers that don't know how to do, techniques that actually, not only do you need to make the stroke move, but you've also got to keep it efficient from the muscle standpoint. And so you can get a lot of energy into it, but then it can have a lot of debt from that as well. Yeah. So that's good. And I think you're such an intellectual swimmer in many ways, in a good way too. So you really think through what you want to do, but then once when you race, is you don't want to be intellectual in the middle of a race, right?
Yeah, I know.
Right? You got to be able to learn to, and it sounds like, right, you got to put that away. And that's sometimes tough for people that are very intellectual. They want to keep on, calculating while they're in the middle of a race. That's not what you do, right? When you get out there, you got to just go to battle. That's it. Great. And so let me ask you, what is looking at your side of things, what does your swimming mean to you? How do you see it? How does it mean to you, or what does it mean to you?
For me, swimming is a way, to connect people. I've had the pleasure of working with so many coaches and, a lot of different club teams, and I've met so many different people along the way. And this has been an amazing experience. If I look back right now, I would say almost 90% of my friends, are swimmers or past swimmers I've swam with. And, that's huge for me. And I feel like, when you swim, it's a lifelong connection, you definitely, your best friends with a kid you woke up 5 a.m. with to go to morning practice. So that's huge for me. So that's what I see swimming as,
It's a whole network of friends, and I've noticed through these interviews, it's friends that you haven't met yet. Even yeah. They're doing the same thing, right? And supposedly the guys that you're battling against, next thing you know, you're on their team, or you're on a national team with them, and you realize they've been doing the same exact thing that you were doing. And it's a great feeling to be in with other people that are like-minded, things like that. And how long did you train with us so far?
2 years, about close to 3 years.
Oh yeah, 3 years. I think
time goes by fast when you're getting old, yeah. Right?
I think 11 to 14.
Yeah.
Got it. And where were you time-wise when you started in the Hunterfly?
I think time-wise, I know what I got down to, because I know I got my first national time under fluid mechanics, and that was a 53.99 in 100 backstroke. I made that when I was 13. That was actually huge for me. I still using that bag now, for the team on, even though it was a different team, I still use it. When I came in the 100 fly, 11 years old, I know when I was 10, I won a minute. So I was probably around 59, 58 in my fly. Yeah.
Got it. And where are you now?
I'm at a 47.
47. Wow, that's fantastic. You made fantastic progress. Congratulations. I think every one of us are proud of what you're doing. I let Michael know, and he was so excited to hear that what you've done. I think I got all like what do you call it? Exclamation points. So very proud of you. And okay, and then let's see. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on what's most important in swimming. I think you've seen our cornerstones of athletic performance before. I'm going to just switch over really quickly. I know a lot of our viewers have already seen this, so I won't spend too long explaining it. So generally here you have, the fuel, sleep, hydration, nutrition, and oxygen. If your energy systems, that's your in-water training for endurance, speed, and explosivity. And that strawberry you ate yesterday goes through one of those 3 energy systems, depending on what it is that you're doing. It gets delivered to the muscle contracts around the bones, and the bones get you to where you want to go. And the bones are your technique, how you move your body. And that gets you to where you want to go. And the whole question is, do you know where you want to go and how to get there? And then synergy is you putting it all together. And racing would be a form of synergy. So I'm interested in both of your point of views on this, each one separately, if you don't mind. Roman, what do you feel in your side of things? What's the most important thing that you'd see? I know they're all important. Which one would you see was most important for you?
You know, for me, synergy is definitely the most important. You know, I can definitely go on for hours talking about, you know, each one of these things, how it affects you in the water. But putting it all together is how you have an amazing performance. You know, you definitely need to train the right way, eat the right way, you know, and have the technique to back it up. So for me, that's why synergy is so important. It's especially in the middle of a race. You know, you got to put all of them together, or else you're just not to get the outcome you want.
Got it. And Patrick, coming over to you on that, how do you feel? What do you feel is like the most important thing?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm not, you know, just to add to what Roman says, all of it is important to really drop time and to, you know, achieve the goals that you want in the pool. I mean, certainly you have to eat right, you have to train correctly, you know. But you know, one of the things that we stressed with his coach now at a very early age was his technique, and the reason for that is that, you know, we were always looking at, you know, swimmers that were 4, 5, 6 years older, and looking at their technique, looking at their underwaters, you know, looking at how they started the race coming off the blocks, how they finished. And it was always important, as you mentioned before, you know, Roman, you know, very coachable, very interested in the whole science, you know, but for all of us, it was important to make sure that he had the right technique and was coached the right way, that he'd become more efficient in the water. And you wouldn't have to go back and change a lot of things later in life, or later in his career journey, or swimming journey, I would say. And so I think that is one of the things that we focused in on. And I think we've been pretty lucky in regards to not only fluid mechanics, but some of the coaches that he's had and still has today in terms of looking at that technique. You know, here at home, I mean, we certainly focus in a lot on the fuel, making sure that he sleeps well, that he eats well. We haven't focused much on strength, you know, given his age, he doesn't lift. But flexibility, core work is extremely important for him to, you know, maintain those underwaters. Flexibility is extremely important again. And then certainly, I think he's always had that sort of mindset. You know, he's very competitive, like his mother, or like all of us, I would say. So,
it sounds like 3 out of 3 on that, right?
yeah. So he's always had that mindset. But at an early age, I would say we always were questioning and always trying to understand technique. And I think really it kind of put it all together when we were started out in fluid mechanics and started looking at the materials and seeing what was happening, you know, especially. And I remember one session where Roman was practicing, you know, his cycle times and counting his strokes, you know, per lap. And that was really eye-opening for us, I would say, in regards to where his speed was getting to and counting the number of strokes. And then he started doing that in practice as well. And so that's one that sort of stands out. You know, if we look at where he is today, I mean, obviously soon, you know, especially going into college, you know, a huge emphasis on strength. Obviously, you know, fuel will still be there, and the whole synergy in terms of putting it together during a race. You know, but one of the things that I'm proud of, at least today, is that I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I'm hoping that he would not have to rebuild any one of his strokes. He could add to it, you know, but he would not have to sort of rebuild it, you know, going into college or even during college. Certainly, he's going to learn some things to improve on it. But I think he's pretty versatile, a very versatile swimmer today, and I think that is because of the early focus on technique.
And the nice thing about that technique, as I mentioned, is a lot of it is very expandable. So, you know, when you look at building a business, for instance, even, right, you kind of build it so that hopefully at some point you can either replicate it or expand it and things like this. And that's the way we build our strokes, so that there's room to grow, and you have, your residual movement, and you have your forces, different forces going into them. And being a student of science, Roman, that plays right down your alley to be able to really absorb that information and apply it. And so that's a great thing. I think that one of the things that I always noticed and made sense to me in my work with Doc Councilman is that once you apply that science, if it's science-based, like you said, you won't necessarily have to go back and redo it. You're always going to be able to refine it, make it better, things like this. So it's not like, and the last thing you want to hear is everything's perfect. Right. That's the worst news you could ever get. People love to hear that, but that's not it. And you're not really going for perfection. And Doc Councilman used to say, you'll never be perfect, but you can always get better. Right. And you get better and better and better. And if you keep focusing on that, realizing there's always new ways to improve, that's important, to keep an open mind and listen, because a lot of times you'll have coaches that'll have different suggestions. And just because you haven't heard it yet doesn't mean that it's not something you want to consider, but right. Some of them go down the wrong direction, and you'll be able to also analyze that because the science behind it. It either won't make sense, or you'll really have to kind of analyze, is there something I'm missing here?
Yeah,
that's good. Okay, and for people that are when you've used some of our fast track tools, right? The FM fast track, like the goal setting, and we have time splits, and we have the one that I think is so good would be I'm missing it, race mapping. There we go. Sorry, but getting old. So the race mapping, what tools did you use that you felt like were kind of beneficial for you in there that we had that were kind of unique tools?
Yeah, I think the two tools we used the most was the goal setting and the race mapping. I definitely remember plugging in my times to the goal setting, see how far I had to go. That was a huge help, especially in my 100 backstroke. Seeing from where I started, I think I was at a 54 high and or 55 low, and I got down to 53.8. And then the race mapping, decreasing my cycle count was huge for me. And Michael, he worked a ton with me on that. I think we decreased my cycle count by almost half. I wasn't really efficient going into it. I was taking maybe more than 15 strokes.
About 15 strokes
per lap. Now I'm probably at seven, something like that, even 6 with a full 15 meters of underwaters.
Yeah. So
that race mapping tool that
you were taking a lot of strokes, weren't you?
Yeah,
he was taking a lot. He was fast. He was.
Yeah.
I remember walking by one time, and Michael was working with you, and I walked by and I looked over and I said, Michael, too many strokes, right? He goes, yeah. I said, what are you going to do? He's like, okay, we better start explaining this right away to him. I said, yes, let's do it right away.
Yeah.
That's good. And he was always very, good to work with that way, because he, if you notice something with him, he'd just carry it right out. So that was great. Yeah, I remember looking the first time I looked, I said, "Why, he's taking too many strokes down that pool."
Exactly.
Yeah,
there's a lot of strokes.
And the reason why, what's so interesting to me is when you look at that race map tool, it'll tell you exactly how fast you have to cycle. And when you find out the more strokes you put on, the faster you got to cycle them to get that time, right? So you all of a sudden get to a point where you're in a world-class cycle rate between 1.0 and 1.2. You've got to hit that. But then the time that you're getting isn't a world-class time.
Right.
So, which to me, if you look at that, it means that you've got to cycle and you've got to be in better shape than the world record holders, because you got to hold the time longer, the cycle rate longer than they do. So you got to swim that same pace longer than they do. It seems very unfair to me, right? And we had a coach a while ago, we had heard, and he's an outstanding coach in some ways, but he used to tell the kids all the time, technique doesn't matter. And I always say, ask any businessman if efficiency matters. Does it matter if you hire 100 people to do the job or 10? I'm going to say it does. So, right. So, and in that way, you could pay those 10 people so much more and make them feel great versus having to spread it out on 100 people, right? And so that's when we look at the quality of those strokes and how important you can, each one can be high quality stroke and get you down that pool farther, and you do it in less time.
Right.
So it's great. That's fantastic. So what messages do you have? Because right now, I think you're sophomore in high school right now, and we're doing this interview, if I'm right. And you're headed forward. You have all kinds of schools that are interested in you. I think you're ninth right now, ninth top recruit in the U.S. for your age or your grade level. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. For swim sim. Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of people. It's nice to be wanted, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Sometimes it's too many, right?
Yeah.
So, but congratulations on that. What kind of message do you have for the other girls and guys that are coming up that are kind of younger and that would love to do something like you're doing?
Yeah, I think this message, maybe a little bit cliche, but it would probably be to keep going. I've talked to a lot of people, and for swimming, I think you have to be a little more mentally tough than a lot of other sports. That's one of the biggest things I've learned. To be able to wake up in the morning and jump in a cold pool, it's a lot. And then there's a lot of other factors that play into it. If you stay flat for a certain period amount of time, I know some of my friends today, they've given up. They've called it in. I have a friend, she stopped swimming now, but when she was around 12, she was right there at that national level. She stayed flat, so she stopped swimming. But she stopped swimming. She tells me that's her biggest regret. That she just didn't keep pushing it, that last edge. And that would be my message. Things are definitely going to get tough. You can't drop every meet. That's something I've learned. No matter how hard you train, so it's not going to happen. But I think if anyone puts their mind into it and enough training, then you can get to where you want to go.
I was speaking to an amazing psychologist the other day who was, working with fluid mechanics now, and he's just amazing. He's in Scotland, and he had mentioned the idea, and I think Patrick, this is something that while I was listening to what you were saying about how you worked with Roman, is during that time when you flattened out, the question is really, can you impact, do something to impact the fact that you're flat, right? And one of the things that you did is seek out us, right? But the idea is to make a change, make a move, and make a move that will move you forward.
Yeah.
And right, and when you do make that type of change, is that something, by the way, Patrick, you see in your business life as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot. I mean, you have to learn, from your mistakes. But the best time, most people like to learn in moments, unfortunately, of crisis. But the most successful businesses learn when they're still at the top, when they're successful, and they need to understand, well, how do I get even better? Right? I'm growing at 8%. How do I grow at 12 or 15 or 25%? I wouldn't say it was a crisis. Some folks would say, some of his probably friends would say, wow, did you really need fluid mechanics? Okay, yeah, you were flat, but, Roman was still, pretty competing pretty well here in New Jersey. But I think it was very much about, as you're saying, seek to get better. What can we do to really propel us, forward and not stand on just doing the same training program, doing the same things that you've been doing over the last year or 2 years, and thinking that that's really going to change the trajectory for you. So I absolutely agree with that. I think just to answer your question in regards to, at least from my vantage point and what I've seen with a lot of young kids, it's tough. Swimming requires really, and will develop mental fortitude. And, but it's really a rewarding sport. And so for those who can stick through it, but it's a lot, and it's a lot on their friends, and it's a lot on their families, but, in the end, I mean, I look at Roman, who he is today, and what he's going to be in the next 5 and 10 years. And a lot of that is due to swimming. And the opportunities that he has today is because of the work that he's done over the last 6, 7, 8 years. and you know, I'm really excited for what he's going to do over the next 7-8 years. But that's what I would tell, you know, young kids. You're not, as Roman says, you're not going to drop in every single meet. The question is, you know, how do you continue to push forward? How do you learn? How do you listen? And then try to apply that. And you are going to eventually drop, and you are going to get your nat times, and you are going to swim in those meets that you want to swim in, and maybe even potentially swim for D1 and do all those other things that some of the top swimmers are doing. And so, you know, that's what I would say. And it's very different. You know, you could be naturally gifted in the water, but you still need to have that mental fortitude to push through.
Got it. And the ability to influence that trajectory, I think, is so important. We notice that in our work as well, both you know, with our swimmers and with our company internally, is that ability to influence, you know, and be creative and not feel trapped. Like, oh, okay, what do I do?
Right.
Those are the great questions. What do I do with now trying to find an answer versus what do I do and throwing your hands up and saying, well, you know, something will happen, which might, but if you can't, right, but trying to influence it and make it a change, and that's really important as you go through life. And if you learn it in swimming, then you learned it for life, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I would say, as me as a parent with you know, somebody just starting out, and you as a parent with somebody that's very accomplished already, I feel like it was a great decision. I didn't actually push my daughter into it at all. I wanted her to be in martial arts to protect herself, but she chose swimming because she's around it all the time, and she wanted to make sure that she did something way better than I did. I'm very proud of her for doing that. Yeah. But I feel like it's a great investment of and it's a great opportunity for parenting, and having great coaches makes a huge difference.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely does. And I think Roman has been, you know, pretty lucky in that regards. His current coach, Coach Rubin, is fantastic. Really understands the mental side. Great program overall. But he's also been lucky, and he's had some other, you know, great coaches, Morris County as well, Coach Al, and as well as you and Michael in terms of in you know, with fluid mechanics. And so you know, that's really got him to where he is today. And I think Roman has been pretty good in terms of picking up a lot of things from coaches, and really the coaching aspect. You know, they also have seen, you know, what he can do in the water, and really what his potential was. And I think that's always given him a lot of confidence, not only in the water, but outside the water. And so, to your point, coaching is extremely important.
Yeah, I always feel this way, that I have a number of friends that went through the Wharton School, which is an exceptional business school in University of Pennsylvania. And some of them have, you know, are world leaders now. Literally, we have, you know, some amazing people that went through there in the business world. And we've seen that some of them go through, and not necessarily our swimmers, but some people go through the Wharton School. And I don't think the Wharton School makes people great. I think people have greatness in them, and they go through those programs, and they pull that out. So Roman, as much as we, you know, provided an environment where you could learn and develop and have that information available, we do that for lots and lots of people. And you are one of the number. There's a lot of people that have been able to do this because we're trying to make it easy for them to absorb it. But you come in with greatness to start with. And we won't make you great, right? You'll pull out of our program what you need to become great. So the resources are here. You're the one that's using them. So if you win the Olympics, you can't blame that on us.
Maybe I'll give you a shout out.
Right. But we would certainly be proud, no matter what, whether you do that or you know, you're just an amazing young man. And you got great parents that are supporting you, and you've had opportunities, and the fact is you've taken them, and we're so proud of you doing that. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we're really wishing you the best of luck. We're behind you, and we'll be cheering for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. You know, it's been a great honor, you know, being on the interview. Definitely means a lot to me and my family.
Well, we'd love to do it again down the road.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely, John. Yeah, it's great talking to you, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and you know, your viewers out there.
We're here all the way along. By the way, just so you know, as you go through college and beyond, we're glad to help in any way we can. We have lots of people in our pipeline that would love to give back and help. So
Thank you. And I definitely tell Michael I said hi.
Yeah.
You know, definitely love to
he's going to be watching this. You can tell him yourself. Okay. Take care. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.